Hello and welcome to BrainX here at Ramada Kelowna. Coming up, we're going to hear from some of the most inspired thinkers in the field as they share some powerful insights into brain injury. So what tools would you like to see implemented as far as concussion awareness within the sport of hockey and other sports, in fact?
Well, you know, we are doing it. We've been doing it for many years, getting people to understand the cause, effect, and consequence of the injury. Now we're starting to understand more about how to manage an injury. But I think what's needed is, again, I go back to communication. All of us getting around a table, specifically doctors, nurses, coaches, administrators, parents, players, all of us collectively coming together and say, okay, we have a problem. Now what do we do about it? What's your role? What's your role? What's your role? The problem is, as you know, in sport today, it becomes litigious. Everybody wants to sue somebody for the mistakes. I chose to play the game. I didn't sign up to have my brain injured and I leave the game in a bib and a drill cup, but I knew the risk. There was an inherent risk to get injured. I didn't realize about my brain because I didn't know. Now we know. So there's no need for an athlete to start, fighting with legalities when we know the consequences of it. So now take that out of the play. Now let's all work together and understand we can do this. We can do this together.
Not all brain injuries cause the same effects for each individual. And when we look at the very mild, there's certainly research based there. And we need to understand that when people are presenting with certain symptoms or problems, if it is consistent with what we know happened to that person. So a neuropsychological evaluation can help us appreciate why these particular issues exist, and it may be as a direct consequence of that brain injury. There are very direct consequences from a brain injury, but they're the secondary ones. And the secondary might be something like depression, or appreciating what happens to your life after you have changes of the magnitude that occur. What are those kinds of consequences, and how do we understand those in the context of the injury itself?
What you want to think about is people who are homeless. They may have had experienced brain injury in the past. So when we look to address their homelessness, we need to think about their brain injury, but also that people sometimes are experiencing brain injury, and that might be leading to a factor of experiencing homelessness. So if you don't think about those factors, you're not going to be able to solve the issue on the other end and provide the right intervention.
Now, when you break it down by year, the Centers for Disease Control in the US found that about 2.3% of women in the United States would experience intimate partner violence each year. If you assume similar numbers here in Canada, that's 276,000 women. So how many of those will also experience a traumatic brain injury? Of the women who presented at hospital emergency rooms and at women's shelters like the one that I operate, as many as 90% reported symptoms consistent with concussion or traumatic brain injury. That amounts to 250,000 Canadian women each year. I want to put that in a little bit of context for you. For every one NHL player who experiences a concussion playing the sport he loves, more than 7 women experience 7,000 women. Well, that took the power away, didn't it? Even 7's bad enough. 7,000 women in Canada suffer that same injury at the hands of the men they love.
So if somebody suspects that maybe they do have a brain injury from a workplace incident or a car accident, what should their next step be?
If they do suspect that they have a brain injury, the first step has to be with the medical community. Their GP, general physician, is usually the first stop, but you really do need to find some people in the medical community that understand this issue, that are plugged into this issue, and that specialize in this issue. From there, they can get some assessments done. We heard this morning a talk about a neuropsychological assessment. That's often a key piece of the puzzle. And from there, we can get a sense of what financial resources we can put into place to help them get back on their feet as quickly as they can.
And that might be where they would come and see somebody like yourself.
Yes, we would work in parallel with the medical community. Really, the first stop needs to be with a doctor, and perhaps the second stop would be with us.
That's all from us here at the Brain X Symposium. If you'd like more information on any of today's topics, you can head over to Brain Trust Canada's website. I'm your host, Lucy Hazelwood. Until next time, this is Shore TV.